Congress held the second in a sequence of hearings today about violent Islamic radicalization in the U.S. Those hearings are underway right now. The Committee on Homeland Security, led by New York Republican Peter King, is discussing how inmates in U.S. prisons may turn to radical Islam, then pose a terror threat once they get out of prison. However, the Congressional Research Service studied 117 homegrown jihadist terrorists from the U.S. and the United Kingdom and only found 7 cases in which prison had a significant impact on an individual's radicalization process, something that Representative Benny Thompson talked about today at the hearing.
Opportunities for radicalization are few, and the evidence bears that out. According to the Congressional Research Service, of the 43 violent attacks carried out by Muslims since 9/11, there were only 2 clear cases of radicalized released prisoners plotting a terrorist act. Judging from this evidence, I think it's safe to conclude that the risk of terrorism originating from Muslim converts in U.S. prisons is small.
Well, you may remember those 2 cited examples. One was the targeting of synagogues in the Los Angeles area, and the other a 2009 plot to shoot down military planes and bomb synagogues in New York. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser joins me today from Phoenix. He's the founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Dr. Jasser testified in front of the committee at the first hearing in March. Doctor, thank you so much for coming on the show. I want to just point out here that less than 5% of federal prisoners even identify themselves as Muslims. So tell me why you believe these hearings are, in fact, a good idea.
Well, I think it's a very important idea because so far we've been having basically a whack-a-mole program in protecting our country. We haven't had a strategy, we haven't had an offense, and it really is frightening for me to hear the comments from Mr. Thompson. This is not a political issue. We have over, of the 220 arrests by the Department of Justice on terrorism charges, over 180 have been Muslims. And as a Muslim, I'm telling you, as somebody that loves my faith, we have a problem that needs our solution, needs a Muslim solution. The prisons are only one place in which the Muslims can be radicalized, and if there's one place that we can have control over the ideology, it's there. Mr. Thompson and others that want to stick their heads in the sand want to ignore the fact that there are imams. There was an imam in New York that had picked and selected over 45 imams that was on tape from the IPT basically saying that he wanted them to lead violence, jihad, that the 9/11 hijackers were martyrs. There was also the case of Mr. James, who's being discussed at these hearings, who basically talked about forming an Islamic cell in prison, and there was no process once he got out to monitor what he did in parole and otherwise. So we aren't addressing the problem. We've had no strategy, and if there's one place we should stop the spigot of radicalization, it's in the prison systems.
Well, what do you say, though, to critics who say that this radicalization isn't taking place in the prisons? I mean, they say the mail is vetted, the chaplains are vetted, and it's not really a problem.
I think they could not be more wrong. They have no evidence that they're vetted. You have this, as I mentioned, Imam Umar, who had basically said radical things, and there's no process, there's no demonstration that we vet them, that we demonstrate that they're actually teaching them an Islam that's modern, that's moderate, and that is not separatist in its ideology, that is free of Wahhabist information and anti-Americanism, anti-Semitism. The ideas of just these 2 cells did not come out of a vacuum. They came out of a system that is radicalizing. Remember, the violence is just one part of it. There's a bigger ideology that they're being taught, some of the Muslims that, and again, Islam can be a very positive force for preventing criminal behavior, but we don't have any process for vetting them. And those that tell you there are, I would ask them to show me the evidence, to show the process that our prison systems and our police systems and others have been monitoring this and actually creating boards that create and promote counter-radicalization, and we've not been doing that.
All right, we are going to have to leave it there. Dr. Jasser, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. We certainly appreciate your input on these hearings.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Singing sensation Joss Stone's life may have been in danger. The frightening details next.
CNN Saturday night, 8 Eastern. CNN takes you into the private world of Julian Assange. WikiWars, the mission of Julian Assange. CNN Saturday night, 8 Eastern.
You value your friends. So does DirecTV. Meg's worth 100. So are Mike, Carol,